differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior, another behavior, other behavior, blah, blah, blah. The one we really use is a differential reinforcement of an incompatible behavior. Because if I see behavior, I think, well, I don't really want the biting my feet. So what can he do that's not biting my feet? Well, he can't keep his head up and bite my feet, whatever it is. So now what you start to think, okay, I want a behavior that you can't do both those behaviors. So my goal is to make it more reinforcing to do the desirable behavior, but as opposed to the behavior I find undesirable. And I don't like to say bad behavior because that doesn't mean it's bad for them. They might think it's the greatest fun, but I may not like it. So with the, as we are doing the differential reinforcement with the, and it helped clear up a little bit of me thinking about the extinction burst a little bit too. With the extinction burst, it does have a positive reinforcement history. So it means that this has worked for them. This has worked for them. This has been great. They do this, they get this, they do this, they get this. And so what we start to do is want to change the reinforcement value. The reinforcement value is very strong on the undesirable behavior, whatever it is, and not strong enough on the one that we want to see. So think of them as scales. Now we're trying to rebalance scales. We want this new behavior to become more reinforcing than the other behavior. That's the rebalancing the scales is the differential reinforcement component. So now we're changing the differential of the balance of the reinforcers. So now, as we're trying to change that, what we're doing, we're not just letting the old behavior not work for them, we're substituting it with a constructive behavior. So we can help to, there may be some frustration in that, but we're helping to minimize frustration because we're redirecting them to the right place to go, or to a desirable place to go, a place that we want them to go. So it is not the same as the extinction burst, but is it maybe the beginning of an extinction schedule before they understand? It might be a little bit, but hopefully we have tools that can make it very clear and we can redirect them to the right thing. But you know what I think? When we're teaching them, and Jesse and I talk about this a lot too, when we're first teaching them to keep their heads to themselves, it is the hardest time because they think you have food, I go get food. That's what I do. I do not know anything other than you put food in my bucket or there's food on the ground and I go eat it. And now we come in and go, well, wait, we have a new plan. And they're like, I don't know your new plan. And we don't have yet any way to help them because the clicker doesn't mean anything yet. I mean, that's the purpose, is teaching the clicker, but it doesn't mean anything yet. So the clicker doesn't hold any value until we have enough of that classic conditioning deliberately put behind it. And then we also don't have like a target or we don't have any tool, so we don't have a way to make it even clearer. There's the protected contact may be a way. The other way that we have found is these buckets. We use these buckets intentionally because we can make it like a vault that it says you can't get in here, and we can even put our hand in it to protect our hand if we need to. So it kind of helps them to give it up a little bit quicker. If it's in pockets, if it's in a bum bag, they still can feel the game of I can smell it, I can feel it, and we can slow down as we're getting it. So the only thing we have is a good delivery tool that is going to be very quick in and out and helps them because they can smell that bucket and you can see them kind of go, it's impossible. And that's where we're like, yes, we need the bucket to feel like Fort Knox at first. It's the only way. But the truth is, I think it is the most frustrating part of what we're doing for them. Because we can't help them as much as we'd like. So that's where the timing is kind of the most crucial. And there's plenty of times we will at a clinic, we want to get in and help the horse first if we can. Because our time is going to be good. We're going to be really expedient about click and then deliver it out where we want it to be. But once we get past that, it becomes easier and we don't find that quite as much. But we still find times where we might want to replace it. But what we are doing is a differential reinforcement of an incompatible behavior. When I was in New York with John and Beezy, and I thought Zabet was right on top of me, and I thought, well, this doesn't feel productive. And what I thought is I need him to be off. And for a moment, he looked out the stall, and I thought, that feels better. And I clicked and reinforced, and I changed it all that moment. And then I was like, we're going to stand side by side. I need you to turn your head away. You can't be on top of me and turn your head away. So I'm going to make it more reinforcing to turn your head away so that and then we shape it to having their head, just right of center basically. But in the beginning, I kind of exaggerated, said, you can't do this and this. So let's make this very clear that this is a thing, and then we bring it back to a more neutral position for practicality as we go. So we start changing that even right away. But it was the differential reinforcement of an incompatible behavior. So it was up to us to make this new behavior as clear as we could, as reinforcing as we could, so that we could replace and give them a place to put that energy and know what to do with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so Mara asked if I had a specific example that I was
questioning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of my first really difficult training horses was a Warlander that had a lot of, we'll just call it fear aggression to make it simple, but very bitey. Like if he had any confusion whatsoever, he was coming after you. Typically putting your body parts in his mouth. And he randomly started to offer a little bit of his tongue. And so I started capturing every time the tongue would come out.
Yep.
Sticking and chewing.
Yep.
And then we started putting a cue on the tongue.
Uh-huh.
I would just like touch his lips and ask for his tongue. And so then he used that to communicate when he became frustrated. It became lots of behaviors. He was frustrated, cheeky, happy, sad, whatever. But he's letting you know he needed attention.
Right.
And so you can't stick your tongue out at me and take my arm off at the same time.
Yes. And that was, and in that situation, probably in the very beginning, it was also a little bit of a differential reinforcement of another behavior.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he came up with the other. You didn't think to yourself, what do I want to see? But he offered it and you said, I'll take that. That's better than that.
He started with just taking any stillness of the mouth.
Yes.
Or just chewing whatever, anything that wasn't biting me.
Good.
And I saw the opportunity for the tongue, and that turned
That's-
into like his version of a smile.
And I think that's perfect because it also lets him still have his effective communication.
Right, we didn't take away his ability
Yes.
to, and he very much so still uses that as like I need something.
Right. That I'm struggling with something.
Right.
Please help me somehow, whatever it is, whether it's like
Very
just.
cute, much cuter than all the people.
Yes, much cuter than all the stitches.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that and it happens a lot of places, really. That I can't think of a single one now that I've said that, but
turning right, like when a horse is mugging
Yes.
you, turning right is an example of that.
and or even and the mugging is keeping their head to the right, maybe, but even with the cutting you off,
Right.
if they start
Right.
anticipating, oh, we're going to make a right hand turn, we're going to make it pretty soon. If they're thinking, I love my right hand turns, and they're excited about the right hand turns, they stop cutting you off and going left in front of you because they're anticipating this new behavior that is more reinforcing. And remember, any behavior that increases or maintains in frequency, something's reinforcing it. The end. I mean, that's all there is to it. That's where it's working for them. So for us to stop and go, okay, what might it be? And we don't always know, but we can think, and remember, we don't want to focus on what we don't want to see. We want to focus on what we do want to see. So to think to ourselves, okay, I got this behavior, what do I want to see? And then we start to change the reinforcement value. That's going to be their new choice, their new option.